of today's demo. So hello everybody, welcome, and we're glad to see you and glad to welcome you on a weekly MSI demo meeting. And today we will present you the status for current week. And during the current week, we were mostly making all the preparation for the upcoming patch release of MSI. Actually, it's going to be the 1.1.0 version of MSI package. Why it's 1.1.0 but not 1.0.4 is that because we are following the semantic versioning and we bump the minor version of the package because we are bringing the new functionality, and the new functionality gonna be brought to in the scope of this new package is the support of the Elasticsearch and on custom stocks. Because before that, in our initial release of MSI, we support Elasticsearch just for default stock. So that we will introduce the support of Elasticsearch on custom inventory stocks, as well as support of the distance-based algorithm. And a little bit later during this demo, Lori will make some demonstration of the draft of documents and the frequently asked page regarding the distance-based algorithm, and also the draft of the release notes. So that this is actually why we will bump the minor version for the MSI package. And also during this week we had quite a lot of different communication, and we see that more and more people get their hands dirty in the MSI code and start to make some MSI customization and try to apply MSI for the goodness of their merchants and for their clients. That's why we have quite a lot of questions, and probably it makes sense to talk a little bit about this question, and because I believe that questions raised in some discussions, in a small circle discussions, can be answer to this question can be useful to other people who trying to accommodate MSI for their purposes. So I will share my screen, and I will go through some of the tickets created, some of the pull requests created, and we can just discuss why some particular decision been done for particular situation. So let me share the screen, and here here in MSI Slack channel, and just to say it once again, that the main communication channel for MSI is the Slack channel MSI in our community Slack, and Vadim Justus came to us during this week and raised a question regarding the configurable product. And because initially he complained that we still have a problem when configurable product couldn't be added to the shopping cart. And some time ago, like a half of a year ago, we really had this problem. But in reality, Vadim had a little bit different problem. Not even problem, because finally we agreed that this behavior is expected one. But what the behavior Vadim stuck with is that he created the configurable product, and initially, because this configurable product didn't have any child, it was created as out of stock. And then he added a child product, and the child product with the in stock stock status. So that after that step, he added the child product to the parent one, and he expected that the configurable product will get the status as a in stock. But in reality, after the child product is assigned to the parent one, to the configurable product does not change the status automatically. That's why the status of the configurable product is still out of stock, and that actually makes all our main services like get saleable product quantity, or get saleable is product saleable for requested quantity, and is product saleable still return the false. Because initial Vadim guess was that seems like the status field of parent is kind of obsolete, but this is not true, and and this is not true because, and actually we did it intentionally, because some time ago it was really correct that we did not use stock status of parent product, and the stock status of parent product was always calculatable based on the child ones, so that in fact there was no any manually specifiable stock status of the configurable product or group product, and the status of such of these product types of the of the composite product types would be always calculatable based on the statuses of the children products. But we decided to change this behavior, and we decided to apply the status of the parent product, because if we would just neglect own status of the parent product, we can't achieve the behavior when the out of stock product would be shown on the category page or on the search result page, and customers can just for example add this product to the wish list. So in this case potentially merchant can make the product is just disabled, but disabling the product will just eliminate it from the category page and from the search result page. So to support the behavior of showing the out of stock product, if merchant for some reason decided to get product out of stock, and this is kind of conscious decision even though that product is available, but along with that, to provide an ability for customers to add product to their wish lists, we agreed that we will have the stock status on a level of composite products like configurable one, and specifying that product is out of stock is one of the our first step validation for such services as is product saleable, to check whether product saleable or not. So as you know, in our in such services like is product saleable, we have the validation chain, which consists of many steps, and which checks whether product saleable or no, because we have quite a lot of condition actually. For example, we have the inventory configuration, for example, as like is managed stock. Also, we have the back order functionality. Also, we have actually quantity of product, so that all of these checks implemented as independent validation steps. And for existing steps, we added one more step, and this step is actually the check whether product is a composite one, and if the product is composite one, we check whether the stock status out of stock is specified, and if so, we just keep all other validation checks, and we just return that the product is out of stock. So along with that introduced kind of actually pretty small, but the performance boost for composite products. So after this thread of discussion, like Vadim accepted um, our arguments, and he agreed that this is like a by default. So this is by design, and this is expected behavior. Um, so let's proceed further to other interesting discussion. Uh, Another interesting discussion. So probably we already demonstrated it several times before Christmas that on our upcoming 1.1 release of MSI. So this release will contain some performance boost, especially for the default stock. And yesterday I had a conversation with our partner representative from Vortex, with Bruce Mead. And actually, Bruce mentioned that on his particular Magento installation, he achieved the performance boost a little bit fixing our MySQL query, which creates the MySQL view. So you know that for the default stock, we use a MySQL view, and we use a MySQL view just to support all the product types, because on custom stocks, we still don't support the bundle product. But we somehow need to support one on a default stock, and that's why we decided to introduce a MySQL view, which will actually wrap our legacy index, catalog inventory stock status, and will join to this index the catalog product entity data. Because in our new index, we actually don't store the product ID, and we store just the natural identity as a product SKU. And that's why actually we introduced this MySQL view with a join. And in our view, we have the distinct query. So actually what does distinct do? Distinct make some kind of grouping. And actually distinct prevents that more than one entity with the same entity ID, in our case that's product ID, gonna be returned out of this query. And Bruce mentioned that this distinct could be pretty costly for us if we have quite a lot of products, and if we have if we have quite a lot of products in the catalog, and if we if we have quite a lot of and if we have quite a lot of stock statuses. But in fact, this fix definitely could be applied for the community edition, so that it could be like, if you make the MSI customization, you can apply this view, like you can make some own customization and remove this distinct and proceed the MySQL view without this distinct. So that will definitely work for you. But on the level of framework, like we can't do this, because this actually break the removal of the distinct will break our staging behavior. Because even so that we don't use staging for the inventory data, we still use staging for the catalog product entity data. That's why the inner join between the catalog product entity and the stock status will lead to more than one entity return with the same entity ID. And this will potentially, not potentially, actually this will break our category page, and this will break our search result page, because we will have more than one product with the same ID return. So we'll just render several identical products. That's why in our core implementation we have this distinct, which from one point introduce some performance degradation, but from another point it prevents like more than one entity return, unless in the case if merchant uses the staging functionality. But what I mentioned here to Bruce, that we already introduced quite a lot of performance improvement for this particular view. And in many cases, we just don't use view anymore, and we make the joins on our legacy index. And just one more time to say that actually existence of the view is not the permanent, but can be considered just a it's a decision, and this is a solution incorporated until we will have the bundle product support introduced for the MSI. As soon as we'll have the bundle product support, we will remove the MySQL view usage. So this MySQL view exists just to smooth shift for MSI. So actually, MySQL view just guarantees that we don't have extra backward incompatible changes. So with the help of this view, we make all our contracts. I mean programmatically contracts introduced on the level of MSI to support to support like all the cases, even for default stock. Now let's proceed next, because there were several other pretty interesting questions. For example, like even today, we got a request that that the quantity for the source could be negative, and the contributor, I can barely pronounce his name. So the contributor, there is no actually name. So the main idea of contributor was to prevent a possibility to specify negative quantity for the source item, because from his perspective, and actually it's pretty clear why he thought about that. That because like we are constantly saying that MSI is much closer to business than the catalog inventory, than previous inventory mechanism we had before, because it tries to be as much close to real business cases as it could be, and that's why these guys probably thought that there could be negative quantity on particular source, and he tried to specify the negative quantity. He seen that the system allows to do it, and he created a pull request which introduced additional validation, which forbid to specify the negative quantity on the level of the source item. But in fact, the negative source item quantity is a desirable state for us. And moreover, it was allowed to specify negative source quantity before, like in Magento era, before the MSI was introduced. But why it could be useful for us on Magento with MSI? So as you know, Magento with MSI supports the drop shipping, and the drop shipping could be set up on top of new inventory mechanism. So in a case, if we have the dedicated source, and this source actually represents the drop shipper, so the negative quantity actually means not that we have some. So the negative quantity for this particular source represent actually how many product we should request from the external vendor. So because the dropshipper source would not be really somehow differ from other sources, but merchant can differently treat the number of source items for particular SKU. And for example, he can specify that the backorder is enabled for all the SKUs, and so that's why quantity will get like will get below 0, and he will see, for example, in this case, like minus 140 minus 154 items, and merchant can just apply this negative value and request exactly this value to external vendor to order them, and after that to distribute among all already placed orders. That's why negative value for the source item has meaningful background for inventory, so that it can be considered just a bug, and we still want to keep the possibility to specify negative quantity, and maybe if it makes sense to introduce some kind of mod, or like saying that this is real warehouse, and on a real warehouse it can't be just a negative quantity. So in this case, that's true. We can introduce this validation for real warehouse or brick and mortar stores, but for example, for virtual sources or for drop shippers, the negative quantity still makes sense. So potentially it can be introduced as a further step and further improvements, but so far so good, and I believe that we will stay with the negative quantity. Also,
Igor, can
yep.
I interrupt you? What about decimal values?
What about decimal values? So we actually have the configuration for the inventory, and let me find it. Configure. It is this one or this one. So we have decimal. So we have dedicated dedicated configuration inventory configuration value for which is supposed to allow or disallow the usage of decimals. And based on this configuration value, we actually support or don't support the specifying of the configuration value. And currently, this value is applied on the stock level, because we still in progress. Actually, we are not in progress, but we a little bit postponed the story, which was started by Sergei Mutov and Ricardo Tempesta in the previous year, where we wanted to apply this change, this configuration setting on the source level. So that currently we use it on the stock level, but even so, actually this value declares whether it's possible or not to specify the decimal value. So that, for example, if you specify this use quantity decimal as no, and you will go and try to specify the quantity as a decimal, you're supposed to get a validation error. As soon as you have this inventory configuration option assigned to yes, so we allow to specify that decimal value. So that we have a dedicated option which is responsible whether we allow or disallow the decimal value. So is it answer your question, Alex?
Yep.
Great. Yeah. So Yeah, and like it is getting very popular. So probably uh, Jonathan approached us during this week, and also he requested functionality, which is like the long story short. So Jonathan, like they have a system integration of MSI with external ERP system for Jonathan case, and this system makes the integration on a timely basis, and there could be like several orders placed in a same delta of time, and when these orders will come can come to the source selection mechanism, the system will like the system will consider that both of these orders should be fulfilled from the same source. But actually, because the source deduction doesn't happen, it could be like it could be problem, because what they trying to do, they try to launch the source selection algorithm, but taking into account that the source selection algorithm in our case does not take reservation into account, and if there are gonna be two orders placed, like order 1 and order B, order A and order B, and if there are just let's say three items on particular source, and both of these orders like ordered two items, actually it means that for second order we can't fulfill the order from the same warehouse, because we because the first order will reserve and will deduct two items out of these three available items. And that's why Jonathan proposed us to actually to introduce a possibility to make a source deduction at the time of checkout. But what he really needs is the source level reservation, and I describe it here, and this is really similar to what Paul implemented, and as I know, Paul Hockman already implemented that as an extension, the source deduction mechanism, and they already, I'm not really sure whether they already started to sell this extension. And I had a chat with Paul and asked him to make a presentation of the source deduction source deduction reservation on our next MSI demo meetings, and he agreed to come to us and make a presentation. So I believe in the nearest time, Paul will demonstrate how the source level reservation implemented in his extension. But looks like this this functionality could be useful for quite a lot of people, quite a lot of business cases, and applying the source level reservation, people can actually achieve the functionality of the source deduction at the checkout time. So this is pretty interesting. And so that, for example, you no need to implement the functionality of working with a quote and like instead of order, because at the time of the order is placed, we don't have the order object, we have just a quote object. But what we can do, we can just run the source selection algorithm and make the source level reservation. So this is how it could be implemented, and like I believe Jonathan will ping Paul in this case, and will check out what actually Paul can provide regarding this possibility in his extension. So this is quite a lot of different questions and different use cases what we are dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and actually this all question raised during this week. There are actually some more questions. Probably they're not so interesting to be discussed during the demo meeting, because on all other question answers could be found on a MSI dev docs, on a Magento dev docs, and on a MSI wiki pages. So but these are pretty interesting cases I just highlighted, which our guys who make MSI customization and integration stuck with, and just to make you aware. So that I will stop presenting this part, and the next presenter gonna be Alex, who will present you pretty interesting stuff and the integration of the bulk API. So this is pretty fancy stuff, actually implemented by Alex on his track, other community track. And Alex, okay, so I'm stop talking. I'm talking quite a lot already. So Alex, the stage is yours. So just show us what you have.
You're talking so nice, it's just unstoppable. Yep. So we had also several discussions last week with Igor, or even this week, or last week, no matter, related to asynchronous import. And there was a story which were raised. I'll share my screen. Which one? This one. So we had a story that's appeared in MSI track also, that's a fixed work of asynchronous bulk inventory operation configured in MySQL DB connection. So basically, currently, Magento has queuing system like RabbitMQ can be used, or database connection, and basically the standard have to be that the database connection is always available by default. And if you want, you can switch, let's say, to RabbitMQ, but currently asynchronous API is only supported by the queuing system, so like RabbitMQ. And the idea generally, and in our track, we also has an idea to switch. Generally, the database connection have to be default, and it have to be supported out of box by Magento. And if you want to switch to queuing system, you are doing it. So basically, let us show you a bit of code. Not this one. This one, that's a inventory catalog admin UI. So the source which assigning, I don't know what is it doing, honestly. Igor, fix me if I'm wrong, assigning the source. And there are multiple implementation of the synchronous API in the MSI module. And what is it doing? What is all those implementation are doing? They're taking the topics which are generated by a synchronous API and then just publishing messages on those topics. And then those topics are executed by consumer and doing the operation. And wait, I'll show you, that's kind of part of the summer presentation, how the synchronous API is working. So, and if shortly, we have here the Q publisher XML. Oh no, wait, I guess I'll start with communication XML. That's XML which defining the topic names. So the each API call has appropriate, or each service contract has appropriate topic that's execute. So we define your service contract. And then each topic name is mapped to the connection type. And by default in Magento, currently implementing that the connection type is AMQP. And the simplest way looks like just to change this name to database, but it's not working, unfortunately, in this way, because I'll go back to the implementation. This mass publisher, which is used by a synchronous operation module of Magento, it's designed and developed for AMQP only. So if we want to have the database connection available, we have to create the own publisher, and also then later we have to create the own consumers that will execute those messages, and consumer is somewhere here. So yeah, currently the seamless operation model mass consumer, and the connection here is also set to MQP. So this consumer will not work with databases only if you'll change this one, this names here and this connection here. And we have this issue on asynchronous import track. So we are really looking for the people who are interested in that and who can provide a solution for that. So idea is to switch the asynchronous import by default to the database usage, and then only on demand to use the IMQP connection. Basically, like how to do it is it's also quite clear from the beginning. So one limitation that's coming from Magento Core is that you cannot, for one topic name, you cannot have different connection type enabled at the same time. Also, you cannot enable or disable them by using Magento admin, for example. So if you are not developer and you don't know what the XML is, you just cannot switch between the different connections. And what the idea behind the possible implementation of this stuff is that on a step, so generally those connection for each topic, those topics, yeah, those two files, they're generated on fly, and then there's a cached. So the idea is to use by default the database connection here to generate those files by using the database connection, and also make those files also generatable by default. So because here is also using the connection type. And then if you, let's say, define in your environment PHP file the RabbitMQ connection, then when you flush your cache, those files will be generated by using another consumer, and they're using the IMQP connection, for example. It's like just a short glance how it can be implemented and how at least we see it currently. Yep, that's at the moment, that's all from my side. We will be very happy if somebody can join us and provide this fix, which will be helpful not only for our module, but also for MSI project. Any questions?
I believe no questions. So from the MSI perspective, we agreed with Alex, and also we agreed with Mark that probably as the quickest solution, what we will do from MSI side, we will roll back, we will revert our changes. We introduce for default mode for inventory transfer. And actually, we already did that. We already reverted that. And our default way of source item transfer gonna be synchronous. And actually, it's not really bad because like two weeks ago, actually, this guy, Alex Lezun, make synchronous transfer to work very, very fast. So and actually, the root cause why we wanted to make the asynchronous transfer from source to source was that our performance degradation. And actually, taking into account that we fixed the performance degradation, we are not so critical regarding the default mode of the asynchronous transfer. That's why currently we reverted that feature, and now those merchants who want to proceed this operation in a async way, they still can do it, but currently they have a limitation that the RabbitMQ should be installed. So this operation would not work for the MySQL adapter until contributors will deliver this functionality to the track led by Alex. And we, on MSI track, we would be able to use the fruits of the goodness brought to the bulk API. So this is actually how it happens on the open source. So somebody contributes something, and guys on other projects get the benefit of this contribution. Thank you, Alex, for your investigation. and for your time. And actually, we will be pursuing contributors whom we are working with to contribute to bulk API and to fix this out. And because we also have some ideas of usages of bulk transfer, bulk APIs, and we definitely interested to have this implemented in a async way. Also, just during this demo, I got a question from Ricardo, and just let me share the screen. And this question probably addressed to Mark. So actually, Ricardo is very interested in a store pickup functionality, and let me remind you that we have store pickup document, and in the scope of this document, quite recently we added actually UIs, and the look and feel how the store pickup gonna be presented, gonna be implemented. And what Rodriguez is asking for? He's asking for whether email and login will be added at the payment step. So the payment step is before the shipment one. The same as we already have for virtual product. So this is actually a pretty interesting question, because we like so because currently on our markups, we just provide an ability to specify an email for the store pickup notification, but this is good enough for guest checkout, but so currently, I here we need to provide two different UIs depending on guest and registered user, because I'm not sure whether it's good to provide an email address for the store pickup notification, or we can just use email of existing customer and just send the store pickup notification to this email.
Yeah, we need to expand this mockup, but we should handle it in the same way we already do for existing orders, where it appears the same as the top mockup that you're showing, where they're prompted to enter an email address. But if they enter an email address that is already associated with a user account, then they'll be prompted to log into that account. So then, assuming they do that, either if they do log in, then on the pickup in store, we don't need to ask again for their email address. It should be the same though with guests. If they don't have an account and they enter an email address that's new, unique email address, we don't need to ask them a second time on the next screen, but we can just make it a guest checkout. But I believe he was asking about the payment.
Yeah.
Okay, well, email be asked at the payment step. Yeah, can you go back to the mock-up there? Because that mock-up is asking for shipping information.
Yep.
Which is not necessary. But if they, okay, so they click the second, whether you call that a tab or section, to go to pick up in store, you scroll down a little bit. So here, looks like the way that we have mocked up this is they'll do this screen. So they'll select the store that they want to pick up from, click next, and then they'll be asked for payment. And the progress bar at the top will move from shipping to review and payment.
And but at the payment step, user would be asked for email address again if it's guest?
No, we don't do that now, I don't believe.
Let
Let me just check real quick.
Because for Rodrigo attached this screenshot.
Okay. So here he's picked, this is review and payment. He's asked again. Let me just check it really quick here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on a 2.3 instance. I've added something to my cart. Okay, so I filled out all of the shipping information, but we assume that's not necessary if I'm doing an in-store pickup. And then I get to payment method. It may be based on the payment method. I'm not asked to enter it again. In this case, it's just a sample store, so I only have check, money, order enabled. There's the checkbox for my billing and shipping address are the same, and then place order. So I've only been asked for an email address on the first screen, which is the shipping screen.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go back to the mockup, actually, then we have that correctly. I just read it wrong, thinking that the first page came after the second. I'm sorry, they went in order, but they don't. The way that it works is that's just it's a tab view. So the first thing they're asked for is their email address in any case, and then they're asked for their address if they are shipping, and if they only click pick up in store, then they are asked for just their email address,
Mm-hmm.
with the ability to log into account if that email address already exists.
Yep.
So I would just want to make sure that the way this form works is if you type in your email address and you're on the shipping tab, and then you're like, oh no, wait, I want in-store pickup, and you click pick up in store, what you've entered in that field should persist. It shouldn't reset, so you have to type it in again.
Okay, makes sense. Oh, so yes, looks like we're good here. And yeah, I believe the answer to the second Rodriguez question, that if the product is not available for the store pickup, the order flow should be preserved as it is now.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we're good. Stop sharing my screen. And the next one gonna be Slava. Slava, are you here? Yep. We will demonstrate the fix of the issue been created by Lori. So Slava, feel free to share your screen and make a presentation.
Hello everyone. I will show you, I think it's small issue, but still important. And it's about mass action transfer from source to source for configurable products, which was assigned to default source. So as you may see my screen, I have configurable products with two options, red and blue. It's assigned to default source with some quantity, I mean child products, and originally it's in stock, have a status in stock. So let me do this mass transfer. I select all these products, parent one and children as well, and select transfer inventory to source. I will do transfer from default source to one of the custom sources what I have, and I will do unassign from origin source after transfer. Here we are. As you may see here, we have now quantity on source one and sellable quantity on stock one, which is have the source one assigned. And as I open my parent configurable product, it's have in-stock status. And I may check as well what we do have on front. Oh, yeah, I need to do the index after inventory transfer. Yeah, here we are. We see our configurable products available on category page. And if I open it, it's have in stock status. I think that's all from me for today.
Can you please specify the status for the configurable product as out of stock and make the reverse transfer, just to see that out of stock configuration is also preserved at the time of transfer?
So I need to set it out of stock, yes?
Yes.
And do transfer.
Yep.
Okay, let's do it. Here it is. It is saved. And let's do transfer back to default, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Let us see. Yeah, it's out of stock after must section.
Okay, cool. Looks good.
Yeah, thank you.
So we could say that in the scope of our upcoming MSI patch release, we fix several issues on inventory transfer, improve the performance, fix the inventory configuration, which was also buggy, and now we fix the issue for the composite product. So I believe actually the issue would be reproducible and not only for configurable but for grouped product as well. So it should be for all composite product type, and I believe that this fix supposed to fix this for group product as well. So could you please test it out maybe after this meeting that the problem is not reproducible for grouped product, because it could be potentially happen for all composite products.
Okay, I'll do it.
So that's all regarding the presentation, and now Lori will make a presentation of documentation stuff, of the FAQ page, and all that documentation goodness. So Lori, it's your turn.
Okay, hey everybody. Let me go ahead and share. So I'll keep this pretty quick since we've been here all for a good while of good info. And I'll also be adding to the release notes the fixed by Slava. So I've added, and I'll be adding these links to the Slack channel, a new page where I've moved all of the install, upgrade, disabling modules, all of that information to one page in the wiki, and also starting to track all of the release notes. So you'll see all of the info that used to be on that overview page, but it was kind of lost and hidden. It's got its own page here, including a kind of a quick overview of what we released with the first release of MSI, and a draft of what's to come for the 1.10. Ooh, I need to remove that little note. but what we're covering, what we're providing, highlights of the new distance priority algorithm, the fixed issues with links. And I tried to collect everybody's names that's been helping out with this to kind of show who's been contributing. Also, with the new distance SSA, I've moved and created a new page that covers any SSAs that we may be adding, what these are, you know, a short snippet introductions to them, as well as how to configure them. So you'll see the source priority algorithm, which doesn't really require much configuration beyond mapping all of your sources to a stock and putting them in an order. But it also now includes the new distance-based algorithm that Ricardo's been working on. This is draft, so it may change and update as we get closer to packaging. This content is already prepared as well for the published online guide, so we'll be ready to push all of it at once. But this gives you an introduction to everything now. It includes how to configure your Google Maps. I went through and kind of captured all that information on setting up your Google API key, any key screens that merchants will need to see. This is the merchant side. Kevin is actively working on the DevDocs content today. He's starting that work. So it'll give you kind of a quick introduction as well as seeing these new screens that will be added to the global configurations under your store configurations inventory setting. So you can see all those, including how to configure your offline calculations, which does include a new CLI command. And I've included kind of what that command is and how to use it. Verified this with Ricardo and may have some updates on this because he's a little busy right now. And then finally, MSI FAQs. As we keep getting questions coming in, issues being answered by Igor and others, I'm going to keep collecting that information here so we have it all in one place, as well as linking to documentation as we can. So if you ever have questions, feel free to check here as well. If you have some information you'd like to add to it, just let me know and I'll get that in. So that's where we are right now. As well, you know, if you're new to MSI, under the MSI user guide, you'll find all the links to the in development branch user guide. This will always be ahead of what's live with a link to live, as well as links to all of our DevDocs content, which is continually growing. So thanks very much. That's it, unless anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Lori. It looks really fantastic. Especially, can you please share your screen back? I just seen slight issue on your page.
Yeah.
Can you please scroll to the top?
Which one?
To the top of this page, right corner.
Yes.
And like the bottom star, could you please click it?
The bottom star. We're at.
Yeah, a little bit higher. So just like on watch, star and fork. So can you please click?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much. Now it's much better. So this is kind of.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, okay, we got that fixed. I'll put that in the release notes.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, thank you. The documentation looks really fantastic. So probably that's all regarding our today's demo meeting, unless somebody wants to step in and make own presentation. Looks like there are no other people who want to do it. And so that thank you guys for your time, and I hope the next one in a week would be even more interesting, and we will present you the release of the next patch release of the MSI. But now, thank you for your time, guys. Thank you for your contribution, and see you soon.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Laters.